the threat of the worm facing the world, new character introductions, alliances, and of course the long-awaited reveal of Yarn, the head of the worm, including something else that may just be even more hype. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, so make sure to stick around. But before all that, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're a fan of Kengan, leave a like, and if you don't know, Kengan Ashura Season 3 of the anime is confirmed. So yeah, hype for that as well, but let's get into it. We begin with the reveal that the worm are now targeting the USA, which they don't take very lightly, and they're actually considering war on the worm as a whole, with them pretty much making an enemy out of every country at this point. Remember a few chapters ago we saw the attack they did on Italy, and now in today's chapter we also get various leaders from underground organizations meeting Japan. For example, the leader of the Chinese mafia, leader of African gangs, etc., all stuff like that. And of course the reason they're here is to deal with the worms. But on a side note, all of them do be dripped out. I really enjoy pretty much all of the designs, if I'm being honest. But we have the employer of Inaba being the representative of the Kengan Association in this circumstance. And we get one of the old guys question whether this is one of Metsudo's jokes, with him revealing that it was in fact Metsudo's idea after consulting Nogi, the chairman of the Kengan Association, to actually commence with this. Which just reminds us again how much influence Metsudo actually has in the world of Kengan. Like, he's not even the chairman of the Kengan Association, but he has the ability to pull all these strings. And then just the mention of something crazy like this happening, they're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be Metsudo's doing. So yeah, man, low-key do be the real ruler of the whole world. But apart from that, they talk about their one common enemy, the worms, and that after the Italy bombing and now the targets on America, that war may be approaching, meaning they need to actually do something about the worm, as they can be considered pretty much the most infamous terrorist group in the world of Kengan, which is pretty incredible. I guess Eddie was right about the world changing after this event. And all of them actually acknowledging the, widespread curse of the worm and how they're pests, everything along the lines of that. So the actual purpose of this meeting is to get all these leaders of underground organizations who have a lot of influence to pretty much gather as many people or as many other gangs and underground organizations all together in one to end up facing the worm. But of course, this isn't 100% possible, as the Yakuza is hostile towards other gangs in Japan. American gangs are run by other guys that don't really have too many connections, with the Kengan representative pretty much saying, if any organization won't follow you, then force them into submission, and that they'll have the full support of the Japanese government and the Kengan Association. Of course, this does kind of influence a little bit, but again, people have issues with that. And then the mention of one thing to pretty much persuade all of them. But before that, we have the return of Inaba, who's of course there. They didn't even realize because my man's the actual Phantom. He doesn't do anything major this chapter, just a cool little appearance. But the thing they're using to persuade all these gangs is that the Kure clan is also part of this alliance, and that if they join the alliance, they will guarantee that the Kure clan will never target them, and that they'll have the personal protection of the Kure clan if they were ever to wind up a target of a different assassin. And with that being said, pretty much everyone is instantly on board, once again confirming the weight of the Kure clan. And I've been thinking about this for a little bit over the last week. Kure Iro, before his death, may have been the most experienced and pretty much notorious assassin in the whole world of Kengan, which does make you think about the Battle of Edward. It took the most experienced and skilled assassin in the world coming up with a plan with all these other powerhouses to actually defeat Edward. There's something to think about. But again, also connecting to Metsudo, close allies with the Kure clan. Man is truly overpowered. And we do get a panel of a few members, including the leader of the Wu clan. So when they say Kure clan, they're also talking about the main branch of the Wu. But they show Kure Hollis in this panel. I would like to think he's the current leader based on what Irio said before he's dead in talking to Hollis. So it does make sense for Hollis to be the current leader, as I pretty much expected, but that's just what I got from this panel here. It doesn't confirm anything. And then of course the alliance or anti-worm alliance has been formed. So we have underground leaders across the world forming together. We have the, pest control unit of Kiryu, Ryuki and Akoya, and then all the other people part of the Kengan Association against them, or the Kengan Association is part of this alliance anyway. So they're all here to finally stop the worm. Pretty badass. But then we get to the even more hype stuff of the chapter. We see two big buff boys running into ZG, who seems to be on the run for the last 2 or 3 years. Man be like a homeless cockroach at this point. They tell ZG to come with him, that he could run, he could try, but you know, they're not really going to last. ZG mentions that these people are direct supporters of the head, which is most likely the case, so 2 other Naden ranked worms finally. We don't know their names, but I'm just going to call them Tom and Jerry based on their joke they make here. But they take ZG to Yarn, and we finally get the reveal. So Yarn was actually this person introduced the other chapter, and his name is actually Yarn. I guess he's the older brother of ZG, which would make a lot of sense considering why ZG wanted to actually become the leader of the worm because his older brother is leader. Or maybe they're like clones of one another or something like that, but I'd like to think Yarn is just the older brother of ZG, which is pretty cool and makes a lot of sense. And of course them looking like one another. But this also means that Yarn isn't the connector, the guy we saw the other chapter with the huge back. My theory was that Yarn and the connector were one person, but I'm wrong about that, 2 different, which I don't really have a problem with. But we also get something very interesting. Yarn says to ZG, I'm not the one you should be talking to. Does this mean the connector is the real leader of the worm and that Yarn is just someone who's like the face of the organization and this guy is something else? Or maybe Yarn isn't really much of a fighter and that this connector guy is the powerhouse that, you know, holds the whole worm together. But we get to see him. He does look somewhat similar to Yarn and ZG, but maybe he's like the older brother or something like that. He also gives me Hatsumi vibes in this panel as well. So yeah, this guy is very interesting. Not even acknowledging ZG at first, with the 2 direct subordinates saying that they're not even the ones in trouble, but they're shaking in fear. So Naden ranked worm members are shaking in fear at the presence of this guy alone, the connector, and then of course his reveal. The connector, Shen Wulong. And we also see that he has very unique eyes, which seem to be like 2 pupils connecting with one another, which is a pretty good like artistic choice. But yeah, the connector looks absolutely beastly, very hype final panel to end the chapter. So this guy is most likely the powerhouse of the worm, the guy that Edward and the Tiger Nico are like the same level as strength-wise. Yarn may be a fighter himself, but I get the sense he's more of like a tactician, the brains of the worm who comes up with all the strategies. And then this guy is just maybe his personal bodyguard or the main muscle of the worm. So yeah, pretty hype stuff. ZG, we get why he's still alive. He is connected to the leader of the worm a lot more than we initially expected. But this connector guy seems to be, you know, absolutely busted. Once actually seeing his face, he doesn't look too much like Oma or Ryuki. So maybe this isn't the person, according to Faye, that Ryuki and Oma are clones of. It could be the case, there is a little bit of a similarity, or maybe this guy is also a clone of another character. Just a lot of stuff we do not know, but very good chapter. I'm wondering if this will actually be the end of ZG, that the connector will just straight up kill him, end ZG next chapter. Imagine the insanity of that. That would give me like the utmost respect for him, but you know, ZG is truly the leader of the world, so he'll most likely survive even if that was the case. But yeah, Yarn, the connector, world alliances, badass stuff, very great chapter. If you haven't already, make sure to check out all the other stuff in the description, such as my Twitter, join the Discord if you want to talk more about Kengan. And if you haven't already, make sure to watch these videos you see down below here. A quick video on the Kengan Ashura anime confirmation. And as always, shout out to the absolute mad lads who support the channel via the Patreon. You can do the same by checking out the description below. But yep, that's it guys. Peace.